And if you know folks who want to be on the board or other offices, and let us know, because I know Travis is still looking for, he has a number of openings still.
I did. I let him know.
Yes. And we appreciate your name being on there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, we will be talking about, one of the things we'll talk about today is our next meeting. If we want to do it, there's been a suggestion made, we maybe have a brown bag meeting down at the park, where we can all sit 6 feet apart and bring your own lunch on. We'll see how people feel about something like that. See how many show up on Zoom today.
I like this being able to try different things.
Yeah.
I like the idea of brown bag lunch at the park. My kids have been inviting some of their friends over, and they do that in their backyard.
Yeah.
Everybody brings their own stuff, and the only place they commingle probably is the bathroom.
Eh.
Set that somewhere.
Well, I just got a text from Jack in the Box. Today is National Beverage Day. I don't know which beverage, but it's.
That's funny.
Oh, it's 12 p.m.
Yep. See, I sent some information over to Rachel, and I think you did too, Dave. So we'll see if she's able to hook up.
She's not on the list for getting the link. Rachel is not on the list.
Okay.
I sent her an email this morning and she acknowledged it.
Yeah.
I guess I have to cuddle up here. That's too bad. Huh?
Mhm. Let's mute ourselves. I'm gonna mute.
Put my earphones on so my wife doesn't have to listen to me all day long, or other folks. You know, there's that kind of secret meetings. I don't want all the good stuff to get out. Alan, have you been over to the center?
I haven't, but I'm thinking of going over there today just to walk around, and still trying to keep the utilities open for the 23rd Street place so I can see what my future is there. So I was going to just give her some money to keep that going. And I got my stimulus checks today.
Oh.
Now I gotta figure out how to spend it. You know, I'm just going to spend it on fan and different things like that.
You know, a number of members have said the same sort of thing, that, you know, particularly some of the folks that live out here, they said, you know, they really aren't in the position that they needed, as well as some of the people in town who have lost their jobs or are just short of being able to keep their, you know, body and soul together. It's a tough time.
It needs to go to somebody, whether it's a group or just someone having a hard time. In
Yeah.
a way, I'm kind of happy that I have this money I could just give away to make it a difference for somebody.
Yeah,
It was free from the government. I need to thank them for that.
yeah. Well, as they say, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Our kids will be paying for it, but it's needed to be done.
I agree.
Yeah, it's needed to be done. I got the board's been dealing with a request from Penny, her organization that deals with some of those homeless youth and families. Their donations are down as well as the need is up. So I'm hoping people take that in consideration. But
Yeah, I hope
Everybody's,
so too.
yeah.
And you know, they say about the economy that, yes, we're spending trillions of dollars on what we're doing today, but if our economy doesn't stay healthy, it's trillions and trillions more that are going to
Yeah.
be. So it's like, yeah, spend $1 today to save 10 tomorrow.
Oh. I'm surprised we haven't had some other folks who, you know, normally would be at a meeting who I think knew about it. I don't know if they're having trouble hooking on.
Well, like I said, I only made adjustments for like 19 people, so
Yeah.
that's on me. I'll have to I'll have to correct that.
Well, I'm surprised that Josh, you know, isn't on, or John Duff, Carl.
Rachel and Truman, not Truman. Forget his name. Well, they sent me acknowledgement of the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute here. Well, he's waiting for the meeting host to let me in. I thought I did. There we go. That's the problem. Okay. There we go.
No, that doesn't look like Penny.
No, but we got more people.
Oh, how are you, Linda?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Carl. How you doing?
Doing fine.
Good.
Hi there.
Well, hi. Good to see you, kiddo.
Okay.
And John, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you
Good.
doing?
I'm just fine and dandy today.
Looks like there's fresh snow in the mountains.
Dave, are there other people waiting to get in?
Oh, there's not now.
Oh, there's Dan. How are you?
I had
Hey,
to make,
good afternoon. Hi.
Good, good.
I had those people in the waiting room, and I had that was my 100. There's 15 participants now.
Is Josh Warner on here? I know he was waiting to get in.
He was last time, so I'm assuming that he is.
He just texted me that he was waiting.
Well, let me get a.
Hi, Linda.
Hello, how are you?
Morning.
Question.
Yes.
Are we muting our own phones so as to avoid any background, or are we just leaving it open?
Well, I'm muting mine because that's 12 o'clock. It's ready for the robocall. Carl, how are your tomatoes?
They're all sitting in the front window. I've transplanted them from their seedling beds. So there are
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
approximately 100 plants that I'll be willing to share about a month from now.
Okay. Hopefully it will not be freezing at night anymore.
I think maybe tonight is our last night to worry about that for a while.
Good.
I hope so. I agree.
Dave, are we in a position that we can start, or is there still people trying to get on?
Not so far. There's 17 participants now.
Okay.
So that's pretty much almost all the whole list I had.
Okay. Well, we'd like to welcome everybody to this a test of our Zoom program, and we'll see how this goes. And there may be a glitch or two, and we'll just have to figure out how to work through it. So we don't want to get too tied up in this. One of the things we were going to try to do is actually have the Pledge of Allegiance and put the flag up on the screen. Were you able to, Mike, be able to do that, Dave?
There you go.
Okay.
Oh,
So we'll go through the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic,
one nation,
which
under God,
stands
indivisible,
one
with
nation,
liberty and justice for all.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now, again, this is kind of a test, and we'll see how this goes.
I don't think it worked very well.
It might be that one person needs to say it, and everybody else just kind of say it to themselves. Dan, we also had down a prayer. Could you just offer a quick prayer for us?
Yes. Father, we once again thank you for today. And you are peace in the midst of storms. We thank you now for our time together via technology. And again, you are greater than any glitch that might come our way. We thank you for our time together. Let everybody join in that has an interest, and be with us as we share information and find out about each other today. We thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Dave.
Uh-huh.
My understanding is the only guest we have is our speaker today. Unless there's people in the room there that you have hiding behind a couch or something that you want to introduce. But outside of that, our speaker today is the Fire Chief Ken Camara, and he'll be speaking to us in a few minutes. Are there any announcements that people would like to make?
Yes.
Annie, I think you have one, don't you?
I do. I just want to say thank you, Earl, and to everybody Earl for the shout out for Friends of the Children. And we have been struggling with operations. We just recently moved out of our clubhouse this past week to serve funds and to look for new opportunities. We were in the middle of a capital project before this pandemic hit, and we are kind of holding off on that for right now, and just have moved all our stuff into storage right now, and all our staff are working remotely, and we're just kind of, just keep us in your hearts and prayers. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can connect with me personally via email, phone, or you can go to our website and make a donation online. But yeah, we need all the love just like everybody else. So we're working. I will say that there's been a tremendous amount of foundations and donors and funders stepping up and supporting our organization as well. So I just wanted to say thanks, and thank you for you all who have already supported us too. I appreciate that too.
Thank you. Dan, you had an announcement?
Yes. Again, tomorrow is the National Day of Prayer, and there are a number of groups, including our Redmond Community Prayer Breakfast group that we are doing from 7 to 8 a.m. A virtual meeting via Zoom with about 12 of us praying, but it will be streaming live on Facebook. And the website there is Redmond Community Prayer Breakfast that you can join in live. You can email in any prayer requests or responses, and we'll be monitoring those as we go for that hour. I know that at noon, Highland Baptist is also having an event of some kind. And then tomorrow evening, I believe it's 6 to 7, the Redmond Community Prayer Group. And that is with Jeff Reynolds and Michael Kuhlman, also doing an hour of prayer tomorrow evening that you can join in. I'm not sure of the details, but I'm sure you can find that under Redmond Community Prayer. So I want to invite everybody, invite your friends to come on via Facebook and join in with us tomorrow morning at 7.
Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate it. It's a great opportunity for folks to use the technology to do things they might not otherwise do and do it in a positive way. So good. Appreciate that. Any other announcements?
Well, I have
Go ahead, Carl.
Well, first of all, the Vintner's Dinner is still on hold. We have not canceled it. It is postponed, and we're hoping that things will clear out and that we'll be able to do a July event, but that's still very uncertain. So we'll keep people posted. Yesterday, I received an email from our district Pacific Northwest governor, and Kiwanis International has waived new member fees for this year, and the Pacific Northwest Kiwanis has done that also. So normally a new member pays $80 to those two organizations and $20 to Redmond Kiwanis. In a board exchange yesterday, I think the consensus was we would maintain our $20 fee, but make sure that every new member received a Redmond Kiwanis shirt. So if there's somebody who you think would be interested in joining Kiwanis and maybe has hesitated because of the outlay for the new member dues, this is an opportunity for them to jump in with both feet and do so at only a $20 fee that also assures them a new shirt.
Good. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that. Are there any other announcements? Josh? John?
Did you learn lessons from that terrible time?
Can't hear you, John.
Because I think there's many similarities and few differences. When HIV covered in 1981, our initial fears, they were denial. We just wanted it to go away. We want to do it with someone else's problem. I think our initial response to COVID-19 was similar. We thought it would be simply said, so it would be our problem. As the evidence grew, activists, communities, mobilized scientists, clinicians, civic leaders.
John, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Are other folks having the same problem?
Yes.
No audio.
No audio.
Okay. So can anybody translate or who might have heard part of it? I didn't hear any of it. Okay. Well, John, if you can hear us, be aware that we're not able to hear you at the moment. And I know one of the things that, again, what are we going to do with donations? FAN is another one of those groups that are looking for support where they can get it. And we just need to keep that in mind. Dave, do you have any help for us?
Well, I've tried to unmute him, but it's not letting me.
Oh.
Hey guys, this is John. That was not me talking. That was somebody else talking.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody else was trying to say something, and I'm not sure who it is.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, this is a test, and we'll figure out how to take care of some of these issues, right, Dave?
you betcha.
Well, if there's no other announcements, this is the one that
John
you
want to
really.
update us?
What's that?
Did John want to update us now that we can hear him?
I don't have an update on what, Dan? Would you like me to update
Okay,
you?
I didn't know. I didn't know if there was something you had prepared for the group, but if not, that's fine. It sounded like maybe you were on the list, so.
No, not. I mean, right. All I would say is the golf tournament is still pending. We're supposed to make a decision on that 45 days out. We're getting close to that. With the governor's most recent announcement saying things are going to be in effect till July 6th, that puts it pretty tight. So with the golf tournament, I think it's Friday, July 10th. So stay tuned for that.
But I think some golf courses are open, so maybe there would be more consideration for that event than others.
What they're saying.
They're open on a limited basis, but not for a tournament.
Yeah.
Right now. That's my understanding.
Yeah. Okay. Any others?
Earl, I just want to ask if there are any needs that we're aware of through the club that we might respond to if needed.
Anybody know of any of our members that are in need of anything?
I could use a new shirt.
You pay us $20 of the new member fee, we'll get you. And John, it looks like you're sitting in the snow.
I wish. No, that's just my backdrop, but that's our cabin.
Oh, okay.
That was
That's
our
John's
cabin.
cabin.
That's our cabin about 3 weeks ago. So
Well, listen, I know you've all been waiting for this.
I think Roland's been trying to say something. Roland, you're muted.
Reaching the end of a job interview, the human resource officer asked a young engineer fresh out of MIT, what was the starting salary he was looking for? Engineer replies, around $125,000, depending on the benefit package. The interviewer inquired, well, what would you say to a package of 5 weeks vacation, 14 paid holidays, full medical and dental, company matching retirement fund up to 50% of salary, and a company car leased for 2 years, and a red Corvette? The engineer sat straight up and said, wow, are you kidding? The interviewer replies, yeah, but you started it. I know you've been waiting for months to hear that. Okay. The next item on our agenda is really the program. Is Ken still here?
Yes, sir, I'm still here.
Good man.
Hi,
So
Ken.
could you tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your department and how you're handling this rather unusual situation we have?
Yeah, well, first thing, thank you very much for allowing me to present to all of you today. I really do appreciate it. And I know that you probably have a lot of other things you could be talking about today, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I will tell you, you're doing an excellent job of adjusting to this format. Like all of us, you know, we're doing things differently than we were doing them just a couple of months ago. We've gotten very comfortable using Zoom and GoToMeeting and all the other formats to do these teleconferences. And so I'm sitting in on a lot of them. And I can tell you so far, you guys are doing an amazing job. It's been fun to watch everybody sort of adjust to this and get used to the camera and the sound and doing presentations and all the other fun stuff. But you guys are doing a fantastic job. So my hat's off to all of you. Yeah, this has been a really interesting period of time. You know, I've had an opportunity to speak with you before, so many of you probably already know, you know, I've been in the fire service for a long time, well over 40 years now, and this is the first time I've ever seen anything quite like this. This has been a real challenge. From a management perspective, from a public safety perspective, it's been very interesting. I'll tell you though, that the folks here at Redmond Fire and Rescue have done just an unbelievable job of adjusting to what is the new normal. Early on in all of this stuff, it seemed like the information was changing almost hourly, not at the very least daily, but you know, oftentimes hourly, with the guidance that we were getting about, you know, how the disease is transmitted and the PPE we're supposed to wear, and the services that we can live on and all this kind of stuff. And so it's been challenging just to keep up with the information. We're finally at a point now where things are relatively static in terms of the information. I think we all have a good understanding. Now it's time for us to sort of transition to the other side of this and prepare for what happens as we unwind all the stuff that we have done. It's easy from an emergency response perspective, and I feel a little bit blessed to be an emergency responder in a condition like this, because I have an outlet for my energy. I have something to do. I have a job that is really necessary for me to provide protection to the community. And so that's been really good for me personally, to be able to, channel my energies into something. And I know a lot of people can't do that, and I truly feel for them. But it has been good to watch this community come together, to watch Central Oregon come together, and to see relationships being built between the cities and the county as we talk about reopening. I'm glad we're finally at a point that we're having that conversation. I obviously, as a public safety professional, I am concerned about your well-being and your health. So I will take a more cautious approach than others will. And I'm going to advocate, all of the procedures that we put in place, inclusive of social distancing, that we continue to do those for the foreseeable future. Obviously, I'm not the Oregon Health Authority, but this is my community and the community that I protect. So that's going to be my advice to all of you. We've been engaged pretty much from the very beginning at the highest level here with the county. I detailed my EMS chief to the county EOC. He's been working side by side with the incident commander, Nathan Garraby, who's with the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. Many of you probably know Sergeant Garraby. And he's been tied in from the very beginning, helping to build the structure for all of Central Oregon and specifically Deschutes County to respond to COVID-19, to make sure that we've got, the appropriate amount of PPE, that we're getting first responders the information that they need, and taking care of things like dealing with testing and contact tracing, and now the gating in terms of reopening. So I feel really proud of the organization that we stepped up and provided that capacity. It's been good for the county, and it's really been good for, I think, the entire community. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you might have about COVID-19 and our response. And I mean, there's a handful of things I think that are interesting about how we adjusted our response. And I'm happy to share those, but I'll open it up to any questions that anybody might have about it before I go on.
Chief, we've heard that people still have heart attacks, people still have emergencies that are not related to COVID-19. How has that impacted the PPE stuff that you guys drive into a housing a development to get somebody? How does that operate?
One of the things we did early on is we introduced some new questioning into the 911 intake process. So when you call 911, a call taker picks up the phone and begins asking questions about the emergency. We introduced some questions into that process early to try and get an understanding of whether or not we thought this particular patient might be possibly COVID positive. So that way we didn't go into every emergency scene assuming COVID-19 and start burning through our PPE, assuming everybody had the disease. So we took a really targeted approach early on, and I think that was very, very helpful for two reasons. One, it helped us maintain our PPE inventory so we didn't burn through and waste it on people that we didn't necessarily need it. Two, I think it helped sort of temper our response to it, and that we didn't treat the entire community as though it was an infectious disease. So there was a sense of normalcy to our response to strokes and heart attacks and vehicle accidents and all the other stuff, because as you know, and I'm sure that's kind of where you were headed, none of that really stops. All that stuff continues. The COVID piece just kind of gets added on top of it. It creates a layer. You may have heard a little bit about, sort of the upcoming fire season and the impacts of COVID-19 on the fire season. There has been a tremendous amount of discussion going on in the background with the federal government, the U.S. Forest Service, the state of Oregon, ODF, and many of us on how we're going to deploy resources to a large vegetation fire, with the difficulty of co-locating hundreds and hundreds of people in one place. And so it will be interesting to try and run a fire camp. I can tell you that it's going to be very, very challenging. Many of the things that we do require us to be in close proximity to one another, not the least of which is being in a fire engine. But we are adjusting to those things, and we're going to have fire season just like we do every other year. And we'll adjust our behavior accordingly to maintain as much social distance as we can. But yeah, it has an impact on our regular calls, but they do continue to go on. I'll tell you though, the volume has been a little bit unique. And I think, I mean, obviously Smith Rock is closed. So we haven't been to Smith Rock on a rescue. We're not seeing some of the other outdoor related calls, you know, falls off bikes or skateboards or stuff like that nearly as much. Mostly because of the stay-at-home order. That will change as things warm up and we start to open things back up again, though. One last thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Testing. Talk about testing. What do we have in the area, and what do we expect?
Well, that was a topic that was discussed last night at the Redmond City Council meeting. My division chief, Doug Kelly, spoke about testing. We continue to look to bring in additional testing. Obviously, part of the reopening plan is going to require us to increase our testing capacity. Right now, we have the average throughput of about 300 tests per week. That's about what we're currently getting. The plan obviously is going to require us to do much greater amount of testing and contact tracing as well. Still waiting for that plan to be fully developed. As of last night, knowing that there is going to be a requirement for us to move into the next phase in terms of reopening to increase our testing capacity, that plan is still coming together at the state level. So I'm afraid I don't have an answer to the question in terms of where we're going to be. Just suffice it to say that that plan is coming together as we speak. One thing I will share with you, and this was a very advantageous thing. So Redmond Fire and Rescue purchased some technology several years ago for the purposes of providing decontamination to some of our equipment. We bought these super high-tech ultraviolet light that we could hang in an ambulance, run it for about 30 minutes, and it would kill about 99% of anything that we would want to decontaminate in an ambulance. And fortunately, we had that technology before COVID-19, so we were able to put it in place right away. So every time we run a call, I should say, for somebody who we suspect is COVID-19 positive, the ambulance goes through a full decontamination process. It comes back, it's parked in a special bay. We do the ambulance the UV light for 30 minutes, and then it gets a full cleaning with a bleach solution. The ambulance is actually taken out of service for about an hour to complete the decontamination process before it goes back in service. The advantage there is we make sure that we are not the vector and we don't cross-contaminate. If we transport a patient in that ambulance, they can be sure that they have a clean piece of equipment to get into. So not only are the personnel provided PPE so that they don't contaminate, all of our equipment is fully decontaminated as well. And we've offered that up to our partner jurisdictions as well. If they had a patient and an ambulance that needed decontamination, we would provide it to them as well. And we've actually offered it to Redmond PD as well. I have if there's no other questions about COVID-19, I do have a presentation specific to the levy that I'm happy to share with everybody if you'd like.
I think that'd be interesting to hear, Chief.
Excellent. I'm going to have to share my screen if that's okay.
That would be.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Let me put it in present mode here, and the little window with everybody's smiling face is kind of on top of stuff, so I'll just go ahead and move that. All right, if anybody, let's just be comfortable here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to chime in and ask any questions that you might have. But other than that, I'm just going to kind of go through the presentation. All right, one of the things, and this is a little bit like we were just talking about, I think it's important. One of the things that I've come to really appreciate after being in the fire service for as long as I have is, you know, we have this tendency to think that everybody understands what the fire department is. You know, we call ourselves the fire department and we just assume that they understand the services that we provide. And I've been reminded many, many times that that's just not necessarily true. So first and foremost, I just want to make sure everybody understands Redmond Fire and Rescue is the 24/7 first responder for every medical emergency as well as fire emergency. You know, we keep the word fire on our patch, and we like that, but I mean the reality of it is emergency medical services is a big part of what we do. We provide both basic life support and advanced life support. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we do both. Ambulance transport. We're the ambulance provider. You've seen those, the red and black or red and white vehicles around town. Those are Redmond Fire and Rescues. So those provide service and ambulance transport to all the medical facilities here in Central Oregon. Obviously, we provide fire suppression and fire prevention. Also some specialized services, aircraft fire rescue firefighting out at the airport, basic rope, water and ice rescue when necessary. We provide service to about 50,000 residents. The fire district is, the area that we cover is about 294 square miles.
Thank you.
Which is about twice the size of the fire district that I worked at in California, served by about a quarter of the resources. So we cover a pretty large area here in Central Oregon. The district was formed originally in 1939 to serve the areas around Redmond, but in 2010, the voters, approved annexing the city of Redmond into the fire district. So at one time, the city of Redmond had its own fire department, like it does a police department today. That department no longer exists, and services provided by the fire district to the city. We have approximately 59 full-time and part-time employees. 48 of those are career firefighters, paramedics, or your operational medical providers. We also have student volunteers. I think the vast majority of us started as one or the other. I was a volunteer when I got out of high school. Actually, I started before I got out of high school, but that's how most of us get into the fire service. As I said, we have 4 stations. We obviously have the station in downtown Redmond. We have a station to our north, which is the Terrebonne station. We have a station out to the west. That is our Klein Falls station that serves the community of Eagle Crest. It's out toward east. And of course, we have a station at the airport. The map that you're seeing, I think, is kind of interesting because I think most people don't really think twice about the size of the area. That light tan area that you see, that's the 294 square mile ambulance service area. So those red, white, and black ambulances that you see driving around, they cover that entire area. That dark black line, that's the actual fire district line. So that's the geographical boundary of the fire district. Within that, you'll see a little sort of tannish area, a little bit darker than the lighter area around it. That's the city of Redmond. So that's the piece that was annexed back in 2010 into the fire district. We do respond to about 6,000 emergency calls a year. It says that we did that in 2019. In full honesty, we did 5,999. So we rounded up for the sake of just making it look better on the screen, but we will definitely go past 6,000 this year. We've seen a pretty significant increase in calls over the years. We've seen over the last 6 years about a 34% increase in emergency calls for several reasons. One, the community continues to grow. But we get older. We continue to age. We need more services, and so the call volume continues to go up. As I said earlier, medical calls are, they're a really big part of what we do. they're actually 85% of our total call volume, which is obviously a lot. We've done really good with fire prevention efforts, but you know, medical emergencies continue to rise. 59% of those calls require a paramedic. And think of it this way: the kinds of skills that paramedics come to the scene with, and the kinds of things that they do, are the kinds of services that once were only available in an emergency room. So it's really a much higher level of medical care. Not all medical emergencies require advanced life support. Some can be done with just basic life support. So we're very careful to make sure that we dispatch the appropriate resource to the call. Remember I talked about, you know, questioning early on. That's how we determine what kind of a resource you're actually going to need. Oops, sorry about that. We did put a 5th ambulance team in place, and really that was just to try and keep pace with the volume of calls. In my time here, I would say there hasn't been a month, possibly not even a week that's gone by, but certainly not a month that's gone by when every single one of our engines and or ambulances was not busy all at the same time. So it happens with a fair amount of frequency that all 5 of our ambulances or our crews are tied up running calls. Obviously, our community partnerships make everyone safer, so we do a lot more than just fire prevention. We do, you know, we manage outdoor burning, youth education programs. We teach people how to put car seats in their cars correctly. When I had my kids, we put the car seat in ourselves and drove away from the hospital like we knew what we were doing. The reality is we probably put the car seat in incorrectly. So now we make sure that people know how to put them in the right way. Address signs. We are responsible for providing address signs. Those green signs that you see, those are provided by Redmond Fire and Rescue. So for $10, we make the address sign. We put it together. We come out. We install it, and we make sure that if it ever needs to be replaced, we replace it. We also do fire and life safety inspections, and already mentioned we do volunteer and student programs. So about the levy, I'm going to try and move something here on my screen here. I apologize. I'm just trying to, there we go. I'm looking at the little banner of everybody's smiling face here, so I'm just going to move that around a little bit. So as you know, on May 19th, there will be, there is a local option levy request on the ballot. It is a 5-year local option levy. Putting it as simply as possible, this levy is about maintaining the services that we have. Your board of fire directors agreed unanimously to put this on the ballot, and so it will be up for consideration. The amount asked for is 27 cents per thousand of assessed value, not market value. What that translates to is for a $200,000 assessed piece of property, works out to about $54 a year, or about $4.50 a month. Our chief financial officer, Jody Birch, did an unbelievable job in helping us work through the numbers to ensure that the number that we asked for, that 27 cents, was what we needed and no more. We are very mindful of the fact that this is a big ask to go to the community, to ask them to pay additional tax dollars for the purpose of providing services. And so there is no fluff in here. This is necessity. And she did a real yeoman's task of making sure that we had the right number, laid out a 20-year forecast for how we anticipate the economy to change over that time, our debt structure over that time. And so we arrived at the number of 27 cents being as conservative as we possibly could. As I said, the purpose is really just to maintain what we have. This isn't about adding personnel. It's not about building fire stations. It's not about buying fire engines. We'll talk about purchasing some equipment here in a second, but really this is just to keep what we have and avoid having to close one of those ambulance companies down. Ultimately, that would be the issue, because we want to make sure that we continue to provide, quality service, quality response times, and put medics on the scene of every medical emergency. As I said, we are talking about some equipment. No, I know there's a picture of a helicopter. We're not buying a helicopter, as cool as that would be. We're not buying one of those, maybe in the future. This is about keeping first responders on those ambulances and on those engines, and keeping some of our equipment up to date. One of the most important things we carry is our cardiac defibrillators. Those are the things where you've seen, you can see the heart rate on the screen. You can also see that, you've seen them used to shock somebody's heart when they're in ventricular fibrillation. Those pieces of equipment have gotten highly technical over time, and now they not only, tell us what your heart is doing and allow us to shock your heart, they measure the oxygen in your blood. They can actually pace your heart. We can send the cardiac rhythm to the hospital in advance of us arriving there. And that technology continues to improve, but it also means that we have to replace that technology on a fairly regular basis. Chest compression systems. These are absolutely a saver for us. We started putting cardiac compression machines in place many years ago. It has dramatically improved the survivability of our patients who are in full arrest, and it frees up personnel to do other advanced life-saving procedures, giving medications, starting IVs, assisting with transport. It is a true godsend. Additionally, there's some other real key pieces of equipment. Our thermal imaging cameras. Many of you probably know what those are. Think of it this way: they essentially allow you to see through the smoke. When we can't see, our hand in front of our face because there's so much smoke, it allows us to see things we wouldn't otherwise be able to find, patients. So it allows us to move through, as you see here on the bottom right, through a smoky structure as rapidly as possible, and it shows an outline of a victim as though they're, as though you're looking at a picture of them. That technology continues to improve. Breathing apparatus. Again, at the bottom right, you see wearing a breathing apparatus. It's, I don't think it needs a whole lot of explanation why that's important, but when we replace them, and ours have come to the end of their life, you got to replace the whole system. As a life-saving system like that, we can't have our members bouncing back and forth between different technologies, because the muscle memory that is necessary when things go bad needs to be the same. So we replace everything all at once: tank, masks, backpacks, the whole thing. Well, if the levy doesn't pass, my commitment is to this community, as is everybody here at Redmond Fire and Rescue. You will continue to be served by dedicated men and women to keep you safe. But there are some adjustments that may need to be made. We may need to reduce medic positions. Unfortunately, the human capital is the most expensive part of the operation, and really it would be the only way for us to adjust if we needed to make any sort of financial adjustments. It may mean cutting one of our 5 ambulance teams, which of course results in longer response times and so on and so forth. We provide mutual aid to one another. Obviously, we work with Bend, and we work with all of our neighboring jurisdictions. The problem with relying upon mutual aid, though, is we only get it when it's available. So when we're busy and all of our ambulances are tied up on calls, when we get called for mutual aid in those circumstances, we got to say no. And so it's nice to have when it's available. It's just not always available. Obviously, we see response quality, changes, and if it takes us longer to get there, it means the fire gets bigger. It means the heart's not beating for just that much longer. And survivability rates are going to go down dramatically. These are your board of directors. I suspect you know many, if not all of them. Hopefully you certainly know one of them, because he's listening to everything I'm saying right now. These are your elected directors. These are my bosses. I work at their pleasure, and they, as am I, here to answer any questions you might have, not just about the levy, but about anything Redmond Fire and Rescue related. We are here for you.
Gary Olenshaw and Craig Younger.
Oh, okay.
With that, I'll conclude my presentation. I'm going to actually, I'm not sure how I unshare the screen here. Oh, stop the share.
Well,
There we
Very
are. Look at that. And then shared the screen. We're back to normal technology.
Good.
I gotta get the commercial in here somehow.
Oh,
There
look
it
at
is.
that.
Well, good thing we're in this kind of meeting, otherwise we'd have to fine you or something.
Just take an IOU.
Director Olrenshaw, did you have anything you wanted to add? I'm sorry, I kind of monopolized the time there.
No, it's a lot of thought was put into the process. This is the first time we've had to ask for more money. I won't say it'll be the last time, but it's something we have to do just for the cost of doing business and to keep everybody in the proper equipment for life and safety.
Hey, Gary, can you go back a little bit in history and explain when the fire department separated from the city operations and how the financials were supposed to work then?
Well, the district, which is people live in the county outside the city limits, as Chief said, 1939. So we were Deschutes County Rural Fire District #1, and that went on for many years until we annexed the city. So how it worked was basically the city would send us a bill and we'd write a check. But over time, we built some of the stations, and the district owned the majority of the rolling stock. So when the opportunity came for us to see about annexing, then of course we took advantage of it. The city was behind it 100%. And so the city changed their charter because we were asking for $1.75 per thousand. So the city changed their charter. The $1.75 would go to the fire district. And then they also changed their charter to where the city council could not raise it back up. So it was a push, even money across the table. And that's how we annexed the city. So basically nothing changed except the name on their paycheck.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be just easier to run this way too. There was supposed to be some just some improvements and some consistencies or more consistencies, and by doing it this way, separating the two.
Yeah. Well, what helped was, it's going to come out negative, and I don't mean it that way, but the city would run its budget, and basically they would tell us this is how much the district goes to city. So we had no input. So it was kind of maddening. And then we also found out that the district was subsidizing the city, I don't know, $280,000 a year. We were overpaying based on their budget versus our budget. So all that came about during the annexation. We didn't bring it up because it was negative, but that was a fact, and we were going to bring it up if we had to. But the good thing about it was at the time, which you got to remember, what was it, 2010, 2011? We had $1 million in the bank. So due to the time, our reserves are running down. And the problem is with districts that rely on property tax is we don't see any money until November. So we have to have enough money in the bank to get us through July, August, September, October, November, which we commonly called feeding Jason. So that's one of the issues. And right now we are in our reserves. So based on the budget, which John, is a forecast, we have to get it done in the next month and a half. We were in the red quite a bit. We've chipped away at it, but not enough that we have enough money to survive, which would mean we have to go borrow money to be able to, do payroll. Payroll's top #1 on the list. So that's why we're asking for the 27 cents.
I guess I'll ask another question if that's okay.
Sure.
Is it possible to pull that map up again of the district, of the entire area?
Let me, it'll just take me a second to get back to that slide here.
Definitely excited virtual workshops, but also
How about that? Can you see it?
I can see it. So I think I heard you right. Did you say the areas outside of the black line are areas you serve, but not necessarily areas that pay into the system? Did I understand that correctly?
Those are areas that are part of the ambulance service area. So one of the things that state law requires that every square inch of the state of Oregon is covered by an ambulance service provider. So our ambulances respond into the ambulance service area, which is that much larger area, but the black line is the limit to the fire district. So the fire protection piece, for a structure fire or something of that nature, that area out beyond that black line is not Redmond Fire and Rescue's responsibility from a fire protection standpoint, only the ambulances.
Okay. And so that
This is actually pretty consistent.
that northwest corner is Crooked River Ranch, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they have their own fire district there.
Yes, sir. They do.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions?
And John, real quick, is we bill people for ambulance service. That includes car accidents, Smith Rock, probably the one north of the bridge yesterday, the high bridge. Automotive insurance will get a bill for us being there. So that's how we help generate some funds, is through billing. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, but because it's quite a process. So that's one reason how we support the process, is based on a ALS call. If you're riding an ambulance, there's going to be a bill of some sort, basically.
Any other questions? We're just getting up to the 1 o'clock hour here. Ken, I'd like to thank you for being with us today. I appreciate that. And Dave, I thank you for trying to put all this thing together. And the question I have for you before we leave for the group is, there's been a suggestion made that we look at the possibility of trying to do a brown bag meeting next week at Johnson Park. What would be your folks' take on something like that? Would you be willing to go to the park with your brown bags and set 6 feet away from each other and try to conduct a meeting?
Our scholarship committee interviewed students last week doing that, and it worked out well. I think it's worth a try.
Do we have any objections?
Is that consistent with our current direction from the city and state?
That's a good question, Dan. I thought if we stayed 6 feet apart would be okay, but I'm not sure. Ken, could you help us with that one?
I'm sorry, can you ask the question again? I want to make sure.
To have a meeting, we're talking about having a meeting down at the park where we set 6 feet apart. Would that be in a violation, or would that not be a violation of our present orders?
So you're talking about being in a city park. The city parks, as I understand it, the facilities are closed. So the bathrooms are closed and all those kinds of things are closed, but you can still access the park. I do believe that you could co-locate there as long as you're maintaining social distance and not be in violation of the governor's order. But I will, at the minute we hang up this phone, I am going to find out the answer for sure. And I'm going to close the loop back with Josh and make sure you get the actual information, because I don't want to get in trouble for sending you to the park.
And I don't want to go to jail. Wouldn't that be good PR for Kiwanis? Well,
we're already in jail.
Hello? Can I
Yes.
ask something? Hello? I was wondering, how will we hear each other well in the park?
Huh?
How will we hear each other?
Huh? Okay, that's a good question. I believe that most times people would hear one another if we weren't too far spread out. How did that work, Carl, with your scholarship group?
It worked real well, except when the lawnmower went by. But The lawnmower shouldn't be working during the noon hour.
Okay. Well, I know that there may be some people who are anxious about doing something like that simply because of the concerns that people have about being that close. But do you want to give it a try? I guess that's what I'm asking. And I don't hear anybody really saying no, and would say that if you don't want to be there, like any other meeting, but we could try it if you want to do that.
It would be
I
a
would be for.
BOB
I would,
offense.
I would be for.
BOB, bring your own bench.
I would
Well,
be
yeah,
for
the-
trying it as long as Gary puts on a new shirt.
I'll wear a different one.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
But
just
it's
for the
also supposed to rain next Wednesday, just so you know.
Yeah, that's what the weather said.
High of 60 degrees and rain.
50 degrees and rain on next Wednesday.
Yeah, 60, yeah.
Well, maybe we will do that the week following, when it's a little warmer, perhaps.
Well, the forecast sometimes change, so we could make the decision a Monday.
We could do it that way too.
Yeah,
Let me
that's a
put an
long ways
announcement
out.
out.
Let me know in case we want to do another Zoom, okay?
Okay.
Either way, it's fine with me, but I need a little preparation.
Let me put an announcement out on Monday. And we will make a decision, and I'll make an executive decision as to which way we're going to do it. And I would ask Carl, would you make sure that Dave gets a list of all members?
He already sent one.
Okay, good. So we could perhaps have more membership participation.
Yeah.
Good.
Hey, Earl, before we break away, could I ask that all board members stay on after you adjourn?
Sure. All board members, can you stay on for a few minutes?
Yes.
I'm
I
gonna,
can't.
I'm gonna stop recording now then.
Okay. In that case, we'll call the meeting to an end, and I appreciate everybody's participation. And it's been a learning environment for all of us. I'll see you later. Have a good week.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.